Today we're going to start off with the installation of an outside mount Intelli-Shade system. This will be a DC hardwired system. And we're going to mount this as an OB bracket, which is an outside bracket or an outside mount, which means it's not going inside the window casement area. It's going above the window casement area on the wall, and again extending past the window on either both sides or one side. In this case, it's just going to be the left side, because we obviously have a perpendicular wall here. So what I'm going to do first, make sure I have the correct tools. Tape measure, of course, make sure it's a good one. Make sure that you have a good cordless drill, hex bit. I also have a Phillips bit, I'll show you why. Make sure you have both. And then make sure that you have, at minimum, a bullet level. This is really, really important with roll shades. It's key to any installation, whether it's inside mount or outside mount. Make sure you have one of these. And of course, pencil and some hardware for mounting everything. I'm going to first start off with getting the shade size. You can get the shade size from paperwork from your office. It could be from our paperwork that's sent with the product. I'm just going to take it off of the label. So here's a piece of fascia. We have a fascia cut size here of 59 3/4. That's going to be our bracket to bracket width as well. So you can just use the fascia cut size on an OB, okay? So I'm going to go with 59 3/4 is my width for the brackets. I want to match that width with my brackets. So I'm going to grab my pencil, grab my trusty tape measure here, and my trusty ladder. And we're going to get up here to 59 3/4. I'm going to make a mark here at the bottom corner, okay? Now, the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and install that bracket, because essentially I want that to be the starting point in this installation. I have yet to know what hides behind the walls, so we're going to find out pretty quickly if there's anything to mount to back there or not. Another thing you'll notice is the cord for the power. This is your DC power here. This is probably an 18 gauge single pair, which is all you need. I've gone through the process of pre-drilling this bracket, so I can just feed the wire through the bracket. Normally on an outside mount application, you're not going to have it coming from the side, it's going to be coming from the back, because there isn't normally a side to come through. So in this case, a little bit different. This is probably more consistent with an inside mount application in terms of where your wire may be mounted and how you would get that through your bracket so that you have it available for your motor system there. I'm just going to kind of let it hang there. And I'm going to try my screw holes here. Now I'm going to make sure this bracket's kind of level. And I'm just going to give it a go here with the holes that I've got with either an 8 or a 10 screw, number 8 or a number 10. Now that was nice. This is a commercial application, so we're dealing with steel framing. That's why I have a self-tapping hex head screw. So if I run into the steel framing, like I did, it bit, and we're good to go. If you're obviously in a residential application, you want to just stay with the wood screws. Let's see if we can get lucky here a second time around. If so, we'll leave it at that. I think we're going to get lucky here. Okay. If you have 2 really solid mounted screws, it's plenty. We don't really need to do any more. That's not going anywhere. So we're good to go on that side. Next thing we want to do is make sure that we mark the opposite side bracket. I've already marked the correct width. I want to make sure I mark the correct height. This is where it's really important in terms of utilizing your level. What you can do, so you're not having to carry around a huge level, the way to make a very small level work is to use the fascia cover as a guide. So I'm going to take my level, my fascia cover, my pencil. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this up on top of the bracket, like so. I'm going to set my level on top of it, and I'm going to use this as a means to make sure that my mark is exactly where it should be, so that when I set my bracket, I can follow my mark at the bottom, okay, and I can follow my mark at the top, so I know where to set the bracket left to right and where to set it top to bottom. And then that way I know that we are level and we're good to go. So let's see if we get as lucky this time. We'll stick with hitting something solid. Okay, so I'm going to get it set up here so that it's matching up with my mark on the top and matching up with my mark at the bottom. Make sure it's straight up and down. We'll go through that process next. Now once you get the screw started, it's always easier to then pull your bracket towards the screw. Give it a little bit of pressure. Yeah, so I hit nothing there. Chances are it'll be the same on the bottom. Next thing you want to do, before you mount this second screw, get your level out again. Put it to the side of your bracket. Make sure that your bracket is level and plumb and straight before you start drilling that hole. Go to the bottom here. Okay, and we're not hitting anything. There's nothing behind that drywall. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to pull these out. We're going to switch over to my Phillips bit. Okay, good reason to have both. I'll tell you why. Because these are great anchors. Okay, so these are really fantastic anchors to use. Make sure you use the screws that come with the anchors. Okay, so you don't blow the anchor out and use a screw that's too big. And I'm just going to take two of these. The Phillips bit goes right into the end of the anchor. And all I'm going to do is screw it right in. Get the other one. Okay, just like that. Makes it real nice and easy. I'm going to get my hex bit back on here. I'm going to go back to my screws that came with the anchors. So I'm going to make sure I take out my hex screws that were in here. Let's not use these. We don't need to now. And let's go back to my Phillips bit. I made the mistake of changing to a hex bit, but it came in handy in that case. All right, so we're back to a Phillips bit, back to Phillips screws, and we're going to get our bracket up here. Now these screws are a little challenging. The reason why I like the hex head screws is they stay on the bit better. This requires a little bit of a balancing act. I'm going to actually try and get it through the bracket first. Okay, that way I don't have to worry about it falling off the tip of the drill. And then I'm going to set it into the anchor like so, and then just put pressure on it obviously so we don't fall off. And go slow. Take your time, no sense in stripping it out. Same here. Okay, nice and solid, okay? We're really good there. So that is our module on how to install a fascia bracket set for an outside mount application. Now you kind of have a better understanding of the type of hardware to use, type of tools required, how to use your level appropriately, and some tricks in how to make sure that you use the hardware that you have with the product to help you get that nice and level and plumb and everything else. So the next phase, next module is going to be installing the shade system. We'll get into that next.